Thank you, Navi and Katie, for putting this extraordinary event together and inviting me to be a part of it. I am so absolutely honored. I want to tell you a story of when I was in the fourth grade. I checked out a book from my school library called The Bad Dreams of a Good Girl. And it was a story about a bad girl named Lottie. Now, Lottie was sick and tired of being good, so she began to rebel in all the ways. And I marveled, like mouth open, at her audacity, her badassery, as she mustered the courage to upset the apple cart of approval. Like she was a supreme shit disturber, and disappointment was her middle name. When the week was up and I had to return the book back to the library, Lottie made me lie to the librarian and say that I lost the book just so I didn't have to give it back. I mean, she was such a bad influence on me, and this was only the beginning. I inhaled that book 347 times. And every time I finished it, I would predictably file it back into alphabetical order on the bookshelf in my room. I would vacuum the entire house, leaving these perfect marks in the carpet that my mother loved. She's a Virgo. I ensured that I got straight A's. I would set the table for dinner without being asked. I would smile pretty and keep my mouth shut, as any good girl would do. But the spirit of Lottie remained dormant in me. Like she was patiently trusting that in time she would be called forth to play a pivotal role in my life. Now, she snuck out once in a while to provoke me. I mean, you can't really expect her not to try. She showed up later on in grade 4 when I stole my best friend's older sister's bra because I wanted to know what it was like to wear one. She showed up in grade 8 when I pretended to go to choir practice on Mondays when I was really meeting a boy behind the portables. Lottie showed up in the 9th grade when I cut 7 inches off my hair into this short pixie cut and dyed it flaming red the night before picture day like a savage. And I can still hear Lottie laughing at the shock on my mom's face. In my early 20s, however, Lottie and I kind of lost touch for a while. You know how that happens in friendship. So Lottie was probably somewhere smoking weed, dating lots of guys, traveling the world with no ambition or focus. But I, on the other hand, I was living at home. I was obeying a curfew. I was in a long committed relationship with a good boy that my family approved of. I was learning to cook family meals. I was volunteering at an old age home and taking my life very seriously. Thank you very much. And instead of pursuing my lifelong dream of going to Broadway, I got a job reporting the 6 o'clock news at CP24, which is a prominent news agency here in Toronto. So when I got the job now, my family celebrated like I had won an Academy Award. My mother threw a party like it was 1999. She invited every single person she knew in Toronto. Maybe some of you were there because I had arrived. I mean, she was so proud. But less than 2 weeks into that job, I knew I'd made a big mistake. I hated the job. It caused so much distress in my system. I started getting headaches. I had chronic sore throats and ultimately a full body rash before I finally had the nerve to quit. And as soon as I quit, I felt this rush of relief. I floated home. I was barely touching the ground before I met the look of disappointment on my family's face. The next day, I put my tail between my legs. I went back and I begged for my job, and they gave it to me. And somehow in my mind, all was right in the world again. Now, Lottie was pissed. Lottie showed up at bedtime when I put my head on the pillow and her arms were crossed and she was ready to fight. And I told her to bugger off and leave me alone. And surprisingly, she did for a while. Now, I married that good guy a few years later. In fact, I caught a glimpse of Lottie scowling at me during the wedding ceremony, but I quickly looked away. I mean, how dare she try to sabotage the happiest day of my life? I was a good wife, a good mother. I had 2 good kids. I kept a very good house, and I became an exceptionally good speaker. I had a good life. But in my mid-30s, I started to ache. the mother of all aches. I desperately missed Lottie. I looked for her everywhere. I started blowing off friendships, breaking promises, ordering takeout instead of cooking home cooked meals. I started letting my body go, picking fights with my family. Look, I even quit the PTA. And one day, in the middle of a freezing winter's night while my family was tucked away safely asleep, I got in my car and I drove. I was done. I drove and I drove, and I had no intention of ever coming back. And as I drove, I fully expected Lottie to show up at the side of the road. Like, where was she? And as I drove, that goodness was just dripping down my face. And I was screaming into the cold night, "Fuck you, Lottie. Deserter. Where were you when I needed you the most?" I pulled the car over to the side of the road, and I adjusted the rear view mirror so that I could wipe my face. And there she was, Lottie. She smiled. She told me that I was acting crazy. She told me that she liked it. I told her that I'd finally outgrown good. I told her that good was the skinny jeans from last season that never really frickin' fit anyway. I told her that good made me afraid of myself and my feelings and my desires. I told her that good was shame and guilt and conformity and drag, a wolf in sheep's clothing. See, good never got me anywhere except lost and fragmented and further away from myself. See, good can only take you so far. It takes you to the limits of acceptable before you run into truth. And truth is who you are. Truth heals. Truth will take you to the crossroads of regret and demand that you disappoint people. I'm in my 40s now. And Lottie and I, we sip coffee together on the daily. We laugh about the old days, about how I still sometimes feign goodness and desperately clamor to be loved. Lottie helps me pick out lingerie. She invites me to explore my sexuality. She dares me to post provocative pictures on social media. She nudges me to say unpopular things, to fight for social justice. She provokes me to tell the truth, even when I know it's going to cause trouble and let people down. I hate her. I love her. I need her. She's the friend that I want in my corner, holding the highest vision for me. And no matter how long you've been hiding in the land of good, truth is going to find you. And just like Lottie, she's going to set you free. Thank you.